over the years, I've had plenty of alternative accounts. I've had tons and tons of fake names, pseudonyms, identities, whatever you would like to call them, assumed names. There were plenty of fake accounts, fake names, and everything like that in the past. And I mean, there probably will be in the future. Hell, there still are. I still occasionally hop on that burner once or twice just to mess with people. But, I'm trying to get myself tacked down to one username for the time being. Like I said, I've had plenty of them. I've never really kept one for too long. I would say maybe that I've been lacking in that regard in more recent times. Like these last couple of usernames that I've had, I've kept them around for a lot longer than normal. But like I said, I was never really a fan of staying in one place for too long. I felt like I would overstay my welcome to a degree. Going on about a decade's worth of fake names, alternate accounts, and pseudonyms. About a decade ago, I became just oddly obsessed with the idea of anonymity. And, I became obsessed with it because I saw more and more people overposting on social media, talking a lot about their personal lives, giving out, where they lived, their face, their phone numbers, etc. All this information about them. And I was still remembering previously, as a lot of people in my generation can attest, that we were told to never give out any of this on the internet. But, that sort of went out the window whenever the government found out how useful it would be to have all this information out in the open, I digress. I'm getting a little bit off topic. All I'm trying to say is that up until very recently, I never really stayed in one place on one account for too long. Normally, I'd burn accounts every couple of months. Normally, I would come up with a fake name and just, never really keep the same group of friends for a very long time. This was a recurring problem with me. Even though I didn't really see it as a problem, it eventually became a bit of a problem, because you start telling stories about some of this stuff and it all starts sort of melding together. It's all sort of a flash in the pan. It's a little bit weird trying to remember some of the stories I've got in my repertoire because you got to remember what account they were happening on, and then you got to remember what year this took place in. It was a big clusterfuck, for lack of a better word, up until recently. And whenever I think about all these old alternate accounts, whenever I think about everything here, I think about the account that was probably my most prominent. It was one that sort of took on a life of its own. The identity that was formed around it, I sort of lost control of. I don't want to use the word a multiple personality or a second personality, but I mean, it was definitely getting out of control there for a long time. I'm not even kidding you. Basically put, I had started this account, and the server that I had been in when I first started it, some stuff happened there. A story for another time because it doesn't regard what happens after it. So I decided that I'm going to start joining up a bunch of these communities just to mess with them. And wouldn't you know it, I joined up one of these communities purely based on a whim after seeing the title of a video that the leader of the community found. And wouldn't you know it, that's how I met the friend group that I'm in right now. It was a very strange situation. I joined up that server, and the very first thing that I did was I hopped in a voice call, and they said, "Where did you get here from?" And I said, "Well, I got here because of Vidly, then YouTube." I gave them the whole gestalt. And then effectively I just started shit posting with them, I'd shit talk them a little bit here and there, it's just some jovial, taking some jabs at people. And, wouldn't you know, they did the exact same thing right back to me. We had a nice back and forth, and eventually we became friends and, a whole 9 yards and all that. But what I'm trying to say is this account sort of overstayed its welcome. I had sort of shit posted myself into a corner after about 7 to 8 months of doing this. Effectively, when I say that it was taking on a life of its own, I mean it was painting a very bleak, very depressing, to others, I didn't even know it was depressing in my book, picture of the person who ran the account. But like I said, it was a little bit, I didn't understand the way that things were looking. Mainly, I would blame that on the autism. I'll say it like this. So not only did I espouse outlandish beliefs, not only did I just come in with my crackpot conspiracy theories from time to time, some of them I believe, some of them I'll admit I was exaggerating a tad bit, but I would come in the VCs, middle of the night, do all that. I would tell them, basically I've been unemployed for this amount of time because of certain events that happened at my previous job. I would come in and I would start talking about all these riots that were going on, because those riots were unironically a riot. We watched all those riot VCs and it was a real fun time all around. And anytime that they would ask for a picture of my room, I would send them a picture. And I didn't know this. Apparently I live in the back rooms, or at least it looks like I live in the back rooms. You see, I live in a trailer, and the people who lived in the trailer before me used this room that I'm sitting in right now as like a workspace. So they didn't have carpet, they had like peel and stick tile on here. But because of the way that this place heats up, because it's got metal siding and a metal roof, during the summer, if you don't have all the fans turned on, all the windows open, it gets like 100 something degrees in here. So the adhesive on those tiles has peeled off, it's melted away, and all these tiles are sort of loose around here. Mix that with the fact that there's some very bland looking walls, and the fact that, there's not really, I don't know what you would call the vibe in here, but, we dubbed this place the cum dungeon is what I'm trying to say, but apparently I live in the back rooms. So what I'm trying to say, though, is that I had shit posted myself into a corner because I had found out that a buddy of mine who had been invited there because, no one believed how weird he was whenever I was talking about him. That's an entirely different story for another time. So no one believed that he was this weirdo, and wouldn't you know it, he came from a porn server. I used to dabble a little bit in the pornography servers from time to time. I try not to nowadays, it gets a little weird in those communities. But basically I invite him in, and to make a long story short, I was at risk of having basically all my dirty laundry aired out. It's never fun whenever someone says, hey man, we're gonna invite someone in here so they can read off your internet search history. I decided that I had shit posted myself into a bit of a corner because on that account I'd been talking about basically hating for a long time a lot of the people who I had become good friends with. Well, not really even good friends with necessarily. They were supplying an addiction, they were a peddler of an addiction that I was partaking in. They peddled vice, and wouldn't you know it, I just ate that stuff up by the handful. This is a long and long-winded way of dancing around this and sort of trying to beat around the bush. What I'm trying to say is that I made fun of a lot of the weird types of pornography that I myself ingested, and I'm going to leave it at that because I don't like to get too into that stuff openly. But to be completely and totally honest with you, whenever I had found out that I was effectively in checkmate, whenever I had found out that I had shitposted myself into this corner, I was horrified for a moment. I was horrified, and it was the middle of the night, and I remember this directly. It was around August or September of 2020. I had come to the conclusion, well, I'm in checkmate. There's nothing I can do here. Whatever I do, it's not going to be able to stop someone else from joining that server, finding out about all the weird shit that I've been posting, and to be completely and totally honest with you, I don't want to have to answer any of those questions. You see, that was the thing. It was that not only had I shitposted myself into a corner, but the account had sort of taken on a life of its own identity, and whenever that identity was threatened, I did not know how to properly, I don't even know what the word would be for it. I don't want to say cope, because I don't actually know what the real meaning of that word is, but I've heard other people use it interchangeably in this conversation. I don't really know what it would be. To make a long story short, though, I did not know how to justify it or rectify the situation, So effectively, I said, okay, well, I guess this is the end of the account. So long, and thanks for all the fish. And I left in the middle of the night to go get cigarettes, and I never looked back, if you understand my meaning. I changed the profile picture to a completely black picture, changed my username to a couple of fire emojis, and, I went on my Twitter account, and I changed the banner of it. I changed the profile picture and the name to similar stuff, and then I changed the banner to See You Space Cowboy, And like I said, I left in the middle of the night, deleted all my tweets, and did all that stuff. I left in the middle of the night, and I did not come back. For about 4 months, I was out on my own. I had my own little fake account because, like I said, I would make fake accounts and everything like that. I made a fake account the night before, and then I changed it up, went into a different server so I could get my kicks there. And in that time, I went and got a new job, and I spent about 4 months at that job just doing exactly what I just outlined, shitposting in a different server and saving up money. I had been a NEET for 9 months at that point. It was a very strange scenario. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that in the next installment of The Customer Is Never Right, or maybe I never will because, I think 3 videos might be enough. What I'm trying to say is, though, I didn't realize that the situation that I had been building up, the story, the lore of that account that I had been building up looked as depressing as it did until I found out that they were eulogizing me in their Twitter bios. You see, I still like to keep tabs on people, even if I stop talking to them, even if I disappear in the middle of the night, even if, I'm never going to talk to them again. Sometimes you just got to find out what these people are doing in their off time. So I go back on their Twitters because, we all had Twitters, we all followed each other. We still do to a degree. And I find that they had put rest in peace, and then the name I was going by, 2000 to 2020 and 2001 to 2020 respectively. Now I don't know what the cause for the disparity between the time that I was alive technically was for them, but that was a little bit of a weird one. I figured it was just them cracking jokes here, but I didn't really understand this. So let's fast forward a little bit. Those 4 months are up. It's around New Year's Eve 2021, and I'm bored. I hop into a chat. I hop in the chat with a good buddy of mine, and I say, I'm kind of bored, and I'm thinking about going back in that server I've been telling you about. And he says, yeah, you should do it. I think it would be interesting. So I eventually don a mask because they hadn't seen my face at this point, painted it up to look like my old profile picture, put on the helmet. I've got this big wacky helmet with a bunch of funny shit written on it, and I pointed the camera at myself, plugged in my microphone, and around 10 o'clock that night, I joined back into the server, and I immediately joined back into the VC, and they all started losing their shit. Now, to be completely and totally honest with you, they told me, dead to rights, they said, we were like 2 seconds from kicking you and banning you because we thought that you were somebody else. Now, that was funny. Then from there, I started getting the story from them all. I had actually thought up until this point that them eulogizing me in their Twitter bios was a big joke, but no, they actually thought that I was dead, and here's the reason why. Do you remember earlier whenever I said that that buddy of mine that I had invited to the server, who was basically about to air my dirty laundry out, had been, I had been telling them how weird he was, and I had invited him in, right? Well, he had been talking about me specifically like we were like the best of friends, like 2 peas in a pod, thick as thieves, so to speak. But the thing is, we weren't. He provided stomping grounds that degenerates like myself could stomp around in freely. And what I did in return was I took advantage of the easy access to the product that was being peddled by the many citizens of that server. We didn't really know that much about each other, but for some reason the man thought that my name is Elliot. Now, my name is not Elliot. I don't know necessarily how he got a hold of that information, though. I don't know how he came up with this. He came up with a lot of strange things in that time, mind you, and I won't even touch on some of those. But he claimed that my name was Elliot, and there was a man in Louisville. Keep in mind, he did know that I was living in Kentucky. Everyone knew that I lived in Kentucky because I love Kentucky, and I talked an awful lot about how Kentuckians are the strongest people in the United States. And I firmly believe that. That's a video in and of itself. But what I'm trying to say is, he had said that my name was Elliot, and he thought that I lived in Louisville, which I don't. I live 4 hours that away of Louisville, I don't like Louisville. Louisville is a disgusting city, probably the worst part of Kentucky, if I'm being honest. But the thing is about it was, he had claimed my name was Elliot, and wouldn't you know it, sometime around like November, I think it was, some man in Louisville named Elliot decided he was going to take a one-way trip to Greenland, if you understand my meaning. He took the easy way out, and they thought it was me. And I was reading back through some of the chat logs from that time very recently. That's actually what inspired me to make this video to a degree. And I was reading back through it, and it was like, holy shit, they really thought I was dead. That really got rid of the last scrap of, doubt that they thought I was dead. No, they definitely thought I had killed myself. But to be completely and totally honest with you, that was a very strange experience that I think I can now add to a resume. Has accidentally faked his own death over the internet before. I don't even know how to necessarily explain that to people, but yeah, the man was making up a bunch of stuff about me to the point that everyone thought that I was dead and had killed myself, when in truth, the account was just, not usable anymore. I couldn't re-access the account, and I wasn't trying to. I still can't access the account because I used a mail.com address, and the thing about mail.com is if you are inactive for 6 months, they make your account on there inactive, and you can't try to go back and change it or do anything like that. You can't, tell them to delete the username out of their database so that you can try to make a new one. It's just gone. So now that account is forever locked behind, an email address that is inaccessible, which is sad. It would have been funny to kind of go back in and look at the chat logs and everything, but I know, whatever happens, happens. That's just how this works. And whenever I think about it, I think I would just like to say this in the end. The guy who was making up all this stuff about, like, me being dead, he eventually got kicked because he was, making up some other shit, trying to get some shit started, stirring the pot and whatnot. But I think it would be funny to just list off a couple of the strange things he said that I was doing. So not only did he claim that my name was Elliot, he claimed that I had, for some reason, keep in mind, this is like, I've never done this. These are all falsehoods, and I don't know how he got these. He claimed that I had, on at least 4 occasions, met infamous artist Shadman. The Shadman, yeah, I've never met him once at all, but he claimed that I had met him on 4 different occasions. I don't know how that came up, The man claimed that I had, like, beliefs that I didn't hold, He claimed that I was, to a degree, like, atheistic, and, I'm not atheistic. I believe that there is a God. I believe there is a Christian God, and I believe he's going to definitely kind of cut me down for the sinful shit that I do in my life here, and that honestly scares me. He had my politics probably completely wrong. Like, he thought I was a libertarian, but I mean, like, I hate those fucking libertarians, I tell you, because they're a little bit short-sighted. You know, I won't even get into that necessarily. I do not consider myself a libertarian because I don't want to exchange the government's boot for the corporate boot, if you understand my meaning. One is definitely worse than the other in my mind. But that's basically it. Without delving into all the weird, perverse shit that he lied about, you know, involving me, that's really all I'll really say about that. TLDW, the too long didn't watch. Suicide is bad. Okay, if you feel like you're having suicidal thoughts, why not get some help for that? Definitely do not do it. I mean, you know, it's not worth it. You know, be a little more optimistic. You know, pessimism doesn't really get you anywhere. Nihilism is the mind killer. Anyways, that's about it for this video. That's the story of how I accidentally faked my own death on the internet. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, well, I do daily uploads. You can subscribe if you'd like to check those out. You can hit the notification bell, or you just don't have to. You know, I honestly don't care if you do. Just get those numbers up for me. If you like the video, why not give it a like? Definitely helps with the motivation and the algorithm. If you want to check out my Twitter, it's twitter.com/Hale_Keezer, and I am making NFTs. If you'd like to check those out, the link will be in the description. Why not go check those out for me? That's about it for this video. I've been Keezer. I've never been good at outros. I'll see you next time.